This is the 17th season of Bass Talk Live with your hosts, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrat. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, APCO, Ducket Fishing, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, Exo Lures, Yamagatsu, The Bass Tank, and Denali Rods. PTL coming at you. Good Wednesday, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where Matt and I are going to talk bass fishing and anything else that the fans want to talk about. Yes, it is the Sunline Hotline show. And Matt, always look forward. This is only the second one we've done this year because we didn't do one in March.
For a month there, we didn't know if you'd ever be able to answer a phone. Good Lord, I've got a, this is called a legal pad, isn't it? Is this what this is called?
No, the legal pad's the longer one.
What is this called?
A pad.
Oh.
A notepad.
Notepad. There's not an empty page left on it. It is all BTL notes.
That's good stuff.
I thought this was my notepad. It's yours. You take some serious notes, and I was not aware of that. I never leafed through it, but I was trying to get a clean sheet of paper so I could get the Sunline Hotline listeners' names down.
Do you need another pad?
Do you have another
somewhere
notepad over there? That would be very handy.
Yeah, I might have one down here. I'll look and see. We'll take a break. All right, folks, here's what we're going to do. Matt and I are going to talk for a few minutes, and then we'll take a break, and then we're going to come back with Ken Duke. And if you have any questions for Ken Duke, this is going to be your chance to ask Ken Duke anything. And I have two questions already because, Matt, what happens is we have some listeners out there that work at night, and they listen to the show at night. They can't watch the show live, so I have some questions that they specifically wanted Ken to answer.
Very nice.
But they were not able to call in on the Sunline Hotline. So I'm going to put the Sunline Hotline number up on the screen, but for now, if you want to write it down, it's 405-253-5543, and we'll take some phone calls here in a few minutes.
I see a lot of messages up there also. Yeah, yesterday, very, very sad deal with Chris Houston, Jimmy Houston's wife. You know, we had Jimmy in last was it last year?
Yeah, with Chris Prather.
In studio, but his wife had a massive stroke. I guess he was on his way to Alabama and talked to her on the phone, and then she is not in good shape.
Yeah, she's in critical condition at OU Medical Center.
Man, Jimmy posted a real heartfelt 14-minute post, and it was one of those deals where you scroll through social media and you don't watch anything, and this shows up, and it's like you just kind of stop everything and watch the whole thing. And
it was crushing.
My heart breaks for her and him and that whole family. And
it really affected me because when you have a stroke like that, I mean, he said in the video she had bleeding on the brain. And what I have went through and the fortuitiveness that I have to be in the shape that I'm in after the accident that I went through, man, it was heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. I mean, I almost teared up, and it just shows the human aspect of life, even with somebody that's at the forefront of this game, that, life is a precious thing. And my heart definitely goes out to what Jimmy's going through and that entire family. And our thoughts are with the Houston family, and we'll see what happens, man. That is a very, very tough situation, and hopefully she will pull through it. But strokes are very challenging, man. It is a very, very touchy situation, and he said that he would keep the fans and everybody posted on the situation, but man, just a horrible deal, and hopefully things progress in a positive way.
And I think it's even more kind of shocking because Jimmy and Chris, and I'm going to put him back there with and when we have Ken on it, I'm sure Ken knows Chris's history as a female angler in the sport with the Bass and Gals and her contribution to the fishing industry and Jimmy Houston Outdoors, and as decades that her and Jimmy have all been part of the Jimmy Houston Outdoors. But man, that Jimmy Houston and Crit, they're larger than life.
Yeah,
they're icons. I mean, they've been around forever. There's a whole generation that grew up with them on TV, and now a whole generation that is growing up with them through social media and the internet. And I mean, Jimmy has always been Jimmy, and it's like, well, is that an act? What is he like? And dude, that was the real Jimmy Houston that we got in that.
Yeah.
I thought it was
very touching,
heartbreaking, but touching that he realized how many people cared about them. And then you see the comments, and it's got 1.5 million views already, and tens of thousands of comments on it. And man, he's had an impact, and Chris has had an impact on so many anglers' lives, mine included.
Yeah,
yours included. I'm sure Ken Duke and all that included. So, just a real bad situation there.
Yeah. Something else that broke yesterday. I don't know if you saw this about Dale Hightower. Did you see that?
What broke?
Dale Hightower is not going to be in the next Elite Series event. He actually pulled out because tomorrow he's having a heart procedure because he has blockage in his heart. So our thoughts are with the Hightower family too.
I know that Dale's been working through it. I haven't not talked to him personally, but I've talked to several of his close friends, and he's had some fairly serious issues over the past month or two. And I was surprised that he was able to fish in the last event actually at Pickwick. But thoughts and prayers out to Dale Hightower. The brain and the heart are things that you do not want to mess with, as you well know, based upon your accident and your recent heart attack.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Yesterday, man, I was at I did my follow-up with my cardiologist. Mm-hmm. And dude, I got on the treadmill and what is that? EKG, not EKG. Is that what it is?
Heart monitor.
Yeah, where they put the stickers on you and all that and everything. So the ticker is doing fine, and I am very thankful for the recovery and the time that I am able to try and get back to the point that I was at. But man, definitely some challenges ahead for both of those families, and hopefully Dale's procedure goes good tomorrow. And he said in the info that was that I read that he was planning on making a return at the very next event.
That's good. So, also, Tyler Carrier, who's from Louisiana, probably I think he was one of the guys' picks in the Fantasy Fishing League there. Not that matters at all, but he's pulling out of the Elite Series for the remainder of the year too, for personal reasons.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on, man. A lot of stuff going on. All right, so I got to say this, man. The Sunline Hotline show, this is one of my favorite shows to do. We love to hear from the fans. Also, Matt, it's one of the most viewed and downloaded shows that we do.
Really?
Throughout the year. Yeah, I guess people love hearing from the fans and hearing what their comments are. So if you do have anything that you want to comment on, get ready, because we'll take a break. We'll come back with Ken Duke, and then we will jump right into the phone calls. And I'm trying to remember.
There should be a Sunline Hotline banner. Is that it right there? Up, up, down, right there. Is that the right number?
Yeah, that's it right there. So it's up on the screen.
405-253-5543.
That's it. So we'll start taking phone calls when we come back from break. Anything else, Matthew?
No, today I did not realize they got 4 days of practice for the Elite Series on the Sabine River. And today is actually the last day of practice before that tournament starts. And it's kind of shocking. You think they're 4 tournaments into the season now. So we're kind of starting to take shape and see who's making a run at it and having a good year and who's sucking.
Time for that turnaround, right, Matt? That's what you always say. Oh, well, it's not even halfway over.
No better place for a turnaround than the beautiful Sabine River.
How about that? So, fantasy fishing wise, man, who knows?
I've completely changed all my picks, but I don't know if I have no idea who to pick on this one. Absolutely.
So, luck is going to play into this one from a fantasy fishing standpoint, you think?
No, I mean, I think
luck is going to play into this tournament from a fishing standpoint.
Still a real, but I think you're going to have a lot of guys that are fishing the same stuff, and some guys are going to do really well, and other guys are going to be watching guys doing really well and not catching them.
All right.
Just my opinion there, but
it's gonna be fun to watch, man.
Crapshoot there.
That's fun to watch. You got to pick. Love the grind.
Angry guys who aren't afraid to run other guys out of their holes. You don't want to pick like the meek rookie in this one. You want to pick pick like the hackney, the guy who can do the thing with the eye, and the other guy goes, "I need to get out of here." I'm just saying, if you're an Elite Series rookie and you roll into a stretch where Jason Christie and Greg Hackney are flipping down the reeds, are you going to want any piece of that slough? I think not. You're going to be out on the main river catching mudfish, redfish, and flounder going, at least I'm not back there with those two angry guys.
Hey, speaking of Hackney, we might see a picture today of Mr. Greg Hackney that many people may not have seen before.
It's a good tease.
Courtesy of Ken Duke.
That piggybacks on a conversation that we had the last show that Mr. Duke was on Monday.
Yeah.
Ken's done his homework for the show.
He has.
Well, he always does. He doesn't really need to do any homework.
That's good stuff. All right, folks, we're going to take a break, come back, bring Ken Duke in, and then we want to hear from you. So we'll be back right here on a Wednesday. Everybody stay tuned.
Ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. The best fish finding tools, from Chirp Sonar and Fish Reveal to active imaging and new active target live sonar, and complete touchscreen control from your trolling motor to your big motor. For a limited time, building the ultimate fishing system will be easier on your wallet. Upgrade to HDS Live with a Ghost trolling motor, active target sonar, or live site sonar, and save up to $800.
Basscat's legendary 20-foot platform has been paired with angler-approved accessories for 2021. Puma FTD features the proven hull used by many of the top names in bass fishing today, backed by a transferable lifetime warranty. The Puma FTD boasts a full team deck concept which enhances efficiency for you and your tournament partners. Turnkey tournament winning performance. The Puma FTD SP from Basscat.
Guys, what makes our Spro lures beat the competition?
I mean, you have to admit, we nailed it with my McSticks and rock crawlers.
Man, we've all won money on my plugs.
My Wamick shop put fish in my boat.
One thing's for sure, we all count on our Spro lures to beat the competition.
Designing cutting-edge baits with some of America's top anglers. Spro lures beat the competition. To see the entire lineup, visit a retailer near you or spro.com.
The Ned rig. What rod should I be using with the Ned rig? My favorite is the Denali Lithium multi-spin rod. It's our 7'4" length, great Ned rig rod. It's got a great sensitive tip on it. It's long enough where I can make long casts, which you're usually fishing clear water with a Ned rig, and it's got enough backbone to get those fish in. So check it out, Denali Lithium Series 7'4" multi-spin.
Big companies get bigger and bigger and talk about their fancy labs where they study fish behavior. But then they all go golfing on the weekend. We don't have a large laboratory to test baits. Why, you ask? We don't need a big laboratory because our pros fish, our employees fish, our salespeople fish, our suppliers fish, our mold builders fish, our owners fish, and our kids fish. This is our laboratory. Our R&D comes from time on the water, learning how to make fish bite. All that time on the water brings us thousands of hours of testing new products and improving current ones for all species.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
All right, we are back on a Wednesday. It is the Sunline Hotline show, and we're going to bring Ken Duke here just in a few seconds. But I I wanted to mention this. I remember the first time I ever met Jimmy Houston, and I don't know if you remember the Oklahoma City tackle show that took place years and years and years ago. Not the same one that is a combination tackle/boat show. It used to be a
I would think when I was in college,
deal.
I would go. It'd be like mid-2000s.
Yeah. Even before that.
Okay.
This is back
but it was still going on then.
It was still going on. But this was back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Then no, I was not even in Oklahoma.
And there were very few people in the building. It was right at the open of the show. And I see this guy, and all I see is the back, and he's toting like 4 cardboard boxes. And the boxes are stacked up all the way over his head. I mean, he's like balancing them like this. And I thought, wow, man, that guy needs some help. And I ran up there and I go, hey, you need some help? And it was Jimmy Houston. I go, Jimmy, why are you carrying these? He goes, got to take care of everything I got to take care of. I said, here, give me 2 of those. I'll help you carry them wherever you're going. And the dude was hauling in boxes because at the time, remember, he had his big store at Lake Tenkiller, and they always had a gigantic booth at the Oklahoma City tackle show.
So they still have the store at Tenkiller.
Yeah. But it's not as big as it was back in the 80s and 90s.
It's got good stuff, though.
Yeah. But
for Tenkiller.
I ended up helping him
a lot of Roadrunners
bring in a bunch of boxes and actually helped him kind of set up there, and he gave me a couple of spinner baits.
Heck of a story.
So that was the first time I ever met Jimmy Houston. So, man, I hope everything goes well for them. All right, let me put up the number once again. Let's see here. There we go. There is the number for the Sunline hotline. Now, let's bring in Ken Duke. Ken, how you doing, man?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing good here in Florida. Good to see you guys in Oklahoma doing okay.
Yeah. Once again, man, appreciate you taking time out to be a part of this thing. And I have a couple of questions already. There were some fans that are unable to watch the show live, so they submitted a couple of questions, and I thought we would get into those first. And then for those people that want to call in after we get to these 2 questions, feel free to jump on the line, and we'll start taking phone calls. All right. The first question is from Steven, and his question says, this year was the 20th anniversary of Dean Rojas's record bag. Obviously, the record still stands. So my question is, how many times has the one-day record been beaten in Elite Series competition?
Well, obviously, the one-day record has never been beaten, or it wouldn't be the record, but it's been approached a few times. Of course, when Dean set the record back in 2001 on the Kissimmee chain, that was pre-Elite Series, and the record, of course, is a 5 bass weighing 45 pounds, 2 ounces. When the Elites went to Falcon Lake on the Texas-Mexico border back in 2008, 3 guys broke the 40-pound mark, led by Terry Scroggins, who came closer than anybody else in history to breaking Dean's record with 5 fish. Terry had 45 pounds, 4 ounces on the final day of that event, and came
40,
really
not 45.4. What do you have?
I'm sorry. Scroggins had 44.4.
44.4.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay. And didn't he lose a big one?
He did.
Didn't he lose a monster?
He did. He lost a big one that he said would have put him over the top and beaten Dean's record. But, you know, that's a shame. And Terry almost won that tournament. He came really close to beating Paul Elias.
Yeah.
But he lost that big fish, which cost him not only the all-time 5 bass limit record, still owned by Dean Rojas, and he nearly had the record for heaviest catch in a 4-day 5 bass limit era that Paul Elias still holds. But there have been a handful of other guys who've done 40 pounds. Aaron Martins had 42 pounds on the first day of the Falcon tournament. Byron Velvick had 41.11 on the second day of that tournament. The day after, Dean had 45 pounds, 2 ounces in 2001. The very next day, Mark Davis had 41 pounds, 10 ounces. And when he won at Clear Lake in 2007, Steve Kennedy broke 40 pounds on the third day of that event. And that's it. That's it. It's those are the assaults on 40 pounds at the tour level in a 5 bass limit era.
Hey, who had the record before Dean broke it? Do you remember, Ken?
Oh, well, that's an excellent question, obviously. And you got to go back a ways. I think, and I'm going to screw up here, but I think maybe, well, this is terrible because the record for 5 back then was not terribly impressive. It was in the mid 30s, and it was not such a big deal. I remember for a long time, Ron Shearer had the record, 36 and a half that he caught in the 80s, but that was a 7-fish limit. When they once and for all went to 5 fish in 1992, that's when they went to 5 and never turned back. That number was at 33, 34 for a long time until Dean just blew it away. And of course, Dean is properly very proud of that record. I think he celebrates every January 17th, and the 20th anniversary is a big deal. And
I would too.
He kind of reminds me of the 72 Miami Dolphins, who were undefeated and won the Super Bowl that year. They light a cigar and have a glass of wine when that team that has the longest undefeated run in the NFL that year finally drops a game.
Yeah.
So I think whenever Dean has a close call, he breathes a sigh of relief and puts a big smile on his face when somebody falls short.
All right, very nice. Now, you have a ton of stuff in that room right there to show off, and it's very rare that I actually possess something that actually might match up to what Ken Duke has. All right, but I'm going to show you something, Ken. I don't know if you can see it or not, but Paul Elias actually gave this to me. All right.
Oh.
That is the actual crankbait and one of the worms that he used to break that record. And then a copy, well, not a copy, an actual page from the Bassmaster magazine when the story came out in Bassmaster Mag. So that's pretty
fantastic.
Cool. So
that is fantastic. Paul, yeah. I love you, Paul.
Yeah.
Where's my stuff?
Paul just sent you a Christmas
He's calling
tree
right now.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I can't stop that one, but let me stop it if I can here. Let's see what I can do here. There we go.
They're calling the wrong number, man. They need to call the Sunline hotline, not you.
Exactly.
Now here's my
Everybody
question.
needs to talk to me. He needs to call the Sunline hotline right now because that's the only phone I'm actually answering at the moment.
In your opinion, what would count to eclipse Dean's 5-fish limit? Would it count in a Bass Nation event? Would it count in a Bassmaster Open? Would it count in just the Elite Series? Would it count in a BFL, a tour event? What if, what if it's like a Lake Fork deal where they weigh their 5 biggest, but their catch weigh release? I mean, what counts in your opinion?
Wow, I hate to. Okay, first of all, let's say to break it as a BASS record, I think it has to be done in a professional tournament, not a nation tournament, not a college tournament, but a professional tournament.
Opens.
Okay? So it could be an open, it could be an elite, it could be a classic. Any of those, I would say, okay, they've eclipsed Rojas's record if they can break 45.2. Now, outside of BASS, I would say if it's done in an FLW or a BPT professional, well, not in an Any Fish Counts event. I would not count that. Although maybe we should.
Even if they're best 5, let's say a guy catches 5 10-pounders, his total weight's 100-something pounds, but he's got his
5 10-pounders? Yeah.
Or could a guy do that on 5 slot fish at Fork? I think Dean would asterisk next to that. I don't think he'd be happy because I remember that he was not thrilled that people were saying that his record was going to go down when it was a TTBC event on Lake Fork, that one where everybody had, I think Keith Combs came close, and I think Russ Lane came close, and I think that Stetson Blaylock came close in that one. And I vividly remember calling Dean, and he'd be like, "No, it doesn't count. Doesn't count. The fish are slot fish. They're not even legal fish."
Here's my issue with anything that's not a tour level event. And here's my issue also with an MLF or BPT event with a very small field. I think that diminishes the accomplishment a little bit because you don't have the same level of competition on the water. But we're kind of splitting hairs here, and as you can see, I'm not good at that. So,
five fish limit what you would deem professional event. So we're talking a Toyota Series, an MLF Pro Circuit, a Bassmaster Open, a Bassmaster Elite Series, a Bassmaster Classic, and that's it.
That's a great comment right there by Brian. I don't know if you can read that.
A record set at any level has to be broken. The MLB home run record cannot be broken.
Okay, Brian, here's my question for you. What does same level mean? Is certainly MLF is in any meaningful discussion at the same level or perhaps even higher, some would argue, than an Elite Series tournament. It's just a different format. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell anybody that a field that includes Kevin Van Dam, Edwin Evers, Aaron Martins, Dean Rojas is not equal to or greater than the current elite field. I'd be kidding myself and everybody watching and listening.
Yeah. So, and it was a top 150. Was it a top 150 when he won it? When he hit the 45-2?
Yeah.
So it wasn't even Elite Series. That didn't come around until 2006.
Right. He was 5 years before the Elites.
So there were even more boats in that tournament than there were in the Elites.
And hey, I didn't know this going in, but I put on my Big Toho Marina cap. Yeah. I had no idea that we were going to be. But anyway, shout out to Mark and Cody Detweiler, the Detweiler family, one of the great groups of people in this bass fishing world. But it's a tough question.
All right, there you have it.
What do you got? What do you take to beat it?
All right, short answer, Ken, because we got to get to the phones here in a minute. Yeah. Short answer. Is that record going to be broken without going to either Falcon or Clear Lake?
Well, obviously the record can be broken here in Florida. The key, especially in Florida, the key is weather. If you can hit a pre-spawn warming trend near a full moon, which is what they did in 2001, then that record could fall like that. Somebody could do 50.
Toledo Bend, Santee Cooper. Look at the 40-plus pound bags that have come out of
Clark had 115 pounds at Santee Cooper back in 2006. I mean, you catch them right. There's quite a few places that could do it, but I would say they're just about all in Florida, California, or Texas.
I put Santee in there.
Okay.
And Santee.
Yeah. All right. Right place, right time. All right. Next question that I received via email said, Ken, since you are the man at Fishing Tackle Retailer Magazine, I have a question. How much bump does a tackle retailer get from a tournament win? And his example was Gussie's win using the Demiki rig versus Hank Cherry's classic win using a jerkbait.
Tough question. I don't mean to always say tough question, but there's a lot of parameters there. How much does a tackle retailer get? Depends on the size of the tackle retailer. Depends on whether or not the tackle retailer has that product in stock. Let's look at an example where a guy wins a big tournament on a bait that everybody has in stock, whether it's a Yamamoto Senko or a Berkeley Power Worm or something like that. The guy is probably going to sell out of whatever stock he has, so he's going to get a nice bump. Is it going to be huge? Is it going to give him a week in Tahiti? No. But now let's look at, say, the 2016 Classic that Edwin Evers won with an Andy's custom jig. Who had those? Andy. Nobody had those, so nobody got a bump.
Andy had them, and Edwin.
Andy got a bump. Edwin got a bump. But even Andy couldn't keep up with demand. And here's the other problem. Because so much depends on how big a supply you have, and so much depends on who your competition is in that marketplace. So in the case of Andy, he wasn't able to make them fast enough to keep up with demand, and he wasn't able to get them in stores quick enough to create to keep that supply going and fulfill that demand. Yeah. So the retailers didn't get the bump that they might ordinarily have gotten. And a lot, sometimes it depends on something regional. Like if a guy wins a tournament on mead and I live in Florida, I'm not perhaps terribly interested in if he was drop shotting in 80 feet of water, nobody in Florida is going to be paying too much attention to that. And so it depends on what market it's caught in. If it's caught in a market where everybody can kind of relate to it, let's say a Gunnersville, a Kentucky Lake, a Rayburn, a Toledo Bend, then it's going to probably have a wider impact. But if it's on a quirky body of water that's not relatable to much of the country, a Meade, an Okeechobee, something like that, it's going to have a much lesser impact. Reelfoot Lake. I mean, imagine if you win a tournament on a Reelfoot Lake,
I've been there.
Compares with Reelfoot Lake,
Yeah.
The best example I could think of this that had a tournament win that just blew everything up would have been 2015, the fall, when James Watson won with a whopper plopper on I feel like something's going on in my brain. Table Rock Lake. Table Rock Lake.
Yeah.
And I was fishing in that tournament and had never heard of a whopper plopper. And the next year, the water was frothed with whopper ploppers. And it had been on the shelves for 3 years. Guys had looked at it and said, what is it? It was originally a musky bait. I don't know if this is borderline, but Byron Velvick threw it for 3 casts when I was with him the year before and said, this kind of looks like a motorized dildo. and put it back in the box and never threw it again. That was the first time I had ever seen it. And then Watson wins, and now look at the whopper plopper and the Chapo and all the baits off of it. That was a bait that really blew up from one tournament win.
Wow.
Yeah.
Am I gonna get yelled at after the show for that one?
Probably.
No, I want, folks, if you can keep the audio and everything here, at some point I want you to go to Google and I want you to Google the Roberts Mud Puppy. The Roberts Mud Puppy has been continuously made since 1921. So it's celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Okay. I believe it's made in Wisconsin. Has been made in Wisconsin for 100 years, and it's a whopper plopper.
Wow.
So the whopper plopper ain't even new, but it took that win, Matt. You're absolutely right. It took that win to shoot it up there and to make the bass world aware of it.
Wow. See, I'm going to go old school. I've said this before on this show, but I think Ken Cook's win in the Classic on the Heartthrob spinnerbait, I mean, guys, it formed a company. It solidified that company, and
no one had heard of Heart before.
Not really. And
Ken
it
seems
exploded.
like he disagrees with you.
Do you disagree, Ken?
You can disagree on this
today,
show.
Mark? Where is Heart today?
Well, it's been sold twice since.
I know, but let's look at. Errol Duckett asked a question when I was on a couple of shows ago, and I realized in retrospect that I screwed up the answer to Errol's question.
Okay.
And I didn't mean to, Errol, so my apologies. And for the folks out there who are not familiar with Errol Duckett, he's the better looking of the Duckett brothers.
That was Ken Duke, folks. That's who said that right there, Ken Duke. All right, continue, Ken.
He's got a lot of energy, too. Also a bourbon enthusiast.
Yes.
I love Errol. Errol's a great guy. Boyd's a great
him.
guy, but I just have to that's my little jab at Boyd and a little praise for Errol. I really enjoy those guys. I hope to see him down the road here soon. But anyway, Errol was asking about the impact of a Classic win on bait sales. And it all ties back to the question that we just addressed about how much a retailer gets a bump out of a particular tournament win and stuff. And a lot has to do with supply, a lot has to do with distribution, a lot has to do with region and stuff like that. But I think Classic wins do great things for the company, but I think they are short-lived. And the Heart, they won in 91, and it put that company on the map, and it did good things for them and so forth, and that's wonderful.
Yeah,
but there
I
are
agree.
a lot of examples like that through history. I think what the Classic does, even more than elevate a particular specific product, what the Classic does is it can bring a technique or a bait style to the fore and make it just explode. And I think, to me, the best example of that is 1985, when my friend Jack Chancellor won the Classic on the Arkansas River. He put Carolina rigging with a French fry worm, but Carolina rigging generally.
Oh, God.
He elevated it to a crazy level. And Carolina rigging has been around since the 50s.
Yeah.
But what it did after Jack won that classic was outrageous. In 98, Denny Brower won by flipping a tube. Nobody flipped tubes before that. And after that, for a few years, everybody had to flip a tube. In 99, Davey Height won with a creature bait, the baby bacon rind. Creature baits were not popular before that, although the Zoom brush hog had been around for 10 years before Height won that tournament. That win by Davey Height put the Zoom brush hog on the map.
Yeah.
And it made it a tremendous seller. And now guys fish creature baits. In 2011, Kevin Van Dam wins with a square bill. And yes, square bills have been around at least since the early 70s, late 60s. But that's really about the time when square bills, square bills and bladed jigs have all but eliminated the spinnerbait for about a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, guys throw them, but not with the regularity or frequency that they used to. They're making a comeback, which is great because spinnerbaits obviously still catch fish. But I think these big wins do more for a style of fishing than they do for a specific bait. And if you can't get that classic winning bait out into the marketplace fast enough because you don't have a big enough manufacturing operation or you don't have good enough distribution or whatever it might be, then somebody else winds up eating your lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Zoom eating Gambler's lunch with the brush hog or whether it's some other jig company eating Andy's Custom Bass Jigs lunch because he can't get those jigs out fast enough or whatever it might be. But I think they're huge for styles of fishing.
We got to put a bow on this one because, we're freaking 40
I know.
minutes into the show. But
he's
look,
on hold already.
Did you
right
see
now.
what Sean posted? He said, I was a TTBC judge for Rick Clunn in 2011. He was throwing a whopper plopper and made me swear to secrecy. He only caught one fish on it, so I never thought much about it till years later. And if you remember in that Table Rock event, Rick Clunn had a good event, and he was also throwing a whopper plopper in that event. And then Josh Bertrand had like 2 fish on the first day, and he's like, I got my hands on one of these things. I'd never thrown it. And then he had 18 pounds on the second day of that one event. 2015 October on Table Rock.
That bait style has been around a long time, but Larry Dahlberg gets a lot of credit for it. And of course, I think Dahlberg is from Minnesota, and he's a great mind in the world.
He hunts
of
for big fish.
But yeah,
but
he didn't invent that bait style. That bait style came around long before he was born, and I'm sure he was familiar with it because he also fished for muskie up in Minnesota, so he had to know about that bait.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the phones. First call of the day. Hey, you're on BTL. Who is this?
Good morning, Mark, Matt, and Ken. It's Nanad from Toronto here.
Hi. Doing good, man. What's on your mind?
Well, I got a couple questions. You kind of stumped me there on Monday when I was listening to the show, and you said Ken Duke's going to be on. My mouth just hit the floor because I wasn't prepared for that. So I had actually a full page of stuff written down. The last time Ken was on, I wanted to ask him, and after your accident, Mark, I threw it out thinking, well, this has gone out the window. But so just off the top of my head, a couple questions. One, we heard Ken talk about, the fishing industry and it's kind of stayed the same, I guess, from a Bassmaster's perspective or BASS and the payouts and I guess, overall the attendance and whatnot. How does, if Ken, let's say if Ken was the president or he owned BASS and ran it, if he had, carte blanche to do whatever he wanted, what would be one thing that he would recommend they could do to really grow it, make it bigger or better? So that's one question. And then two, and this goes to all three of you actually, is do you guys think that in the future for tournament bass fishing or any tournament fishing really, and the demand on people wanting to stream this stuff and be so interactive with the anglers, do you guys see it going to virtual headsets where people can feel like they're right beside the anglers in the boats, and have that interaction maybe with the anglers at the same time? So those are the two questions that I have.
Okay. All right, man. Thanks for the call. Hang up and we'll get to it.
So basically you put a headset on.
All right. Take care, man.
You put a headset on, and now you're getting backseated by Edwin Evers for 8 hours.
No. All right, Ken, question number 1. What would you do?
Wow. First of all, thanks for that call. And I have fantasies that are not as good as my being the king of the bass world for a day or two. That would be pretty cool. I used to have such a list, by the way, in case anybody at Bass came to their senses and wanted to hire me to just become the ultimate tyrant of the company for a while. But I would, believe it or not, and this is going to sound counterintuitive because people think our sport is pretty fan-friendly. It is not. Our sport is not as fan-friendly as it should be. And, for example, we've got this Sabine River Elite Series tournament coming off this week. The competition will start tomorrow. Everybody will fish Thursday and Friday. Then they will cut the field to 50. How stupid is that? How remarkably stupid is that? So that if I live a couple hours away and I can only get away on a weekend to go see some of my heroes, you're going to eliminate half of them and send them home. That's so dumb. I don't know how to address it. I would either not have cuts and maybe cut the competition to 3 days, or I would require people to stay around to make this thing fan friendly so they can interact with people. They can sign autographs. They can answer questions. They can become part of the community. I would invite bass clubs to participate at the events, at the weigh-ins, at the little mini. I would create a mini expo at every event, and I would invite every bass club within 200 miles or 250 miles, or as far as they wanted to come out there. I'd give them a tent. They could sign people up. They could tell people what they're doing, what they're offering, and so forth. I would do the same thing with the local tackle collectors club. I would try to make this a big community event, and I would try to keep the pros out there as much as I possibly could, because this sport is not nearly as fan-friendly as it pretends to be. And I think that's got to be improved. We've got to do more for the grassroots. We've got to do more to create new anglers. We've got to make it less about competition and more about the outdoor experience if we want to grow the sport. So that's
cool
what
stuff.
I'd do if I was czar for a day.
All right. Next question.
Wait a minute. What would you do, Mark Jeffries, Matt Pangrack? What would you guys do?
Me? I've said this a zillion times. Number 1, I would have a PTQ. All right. A Pro Tour qualifier for each event. In other words, I would engage a group of anglers that have been not on the body of water that the PTQ is on, the Pro Tour qualifier. All right, let's say if it's at Sam Rayburn, okay, the PTQ is going to be at Toledo Bend. And then I would save 3 spots, maybe 2, but max 3 for those PTQ qualifiers, to where everybody would have a chance, all right, to make that run and create that Cinderella story. Right? Because if you add 3 entries, you're probably not going to affect, what's going on from a field standpoint. All right? But you do create that Cinderella story of which the fans and everybody in that community can kind of grab a hold of. All right?
So you're creating a U.S. Open golf golf tournament does that.
Yeah, but you have to earn your way into it. It's not like, okay, I'm going to do a sponsor exemption. Hey, this guy's with Yamaha, so you know what? I want 3 spots for Yamaha. No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you have to actually earn one of those 2 or 3 spots and create that Cinderella story.
We have to get a guess. So Justin Lucas's brother, Kevin Lucas, I follow him on Instagram. He's a big-time golfer. I think he's on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's played in the U.S. Open before. He's played in a number of PGA Tour events that he's gotten in, both through exemption and through qualifiers.
Yeah.
I think we need to get him on to talk more about how the qualifying process works.
Yeah, we can do that.
If he's willing to do that.
Yeah, but I think engaging the local entity, the local fans, and the people that are in the community. I think you were dead on in requiring the guys to be there on a Saturday. If you don't make the cut, you know what? We're going to have this festival, guys, and fans can interact that way. I love that idea, but I've always said since day one, create that Cinderella story, and let's see what happens with those 2 or 3 anglers that earn their way into those events.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. I think there are 100 guys who won't like it, but that's honestly, that's just 100 guys. So
yeah,
that's not many. I worry. Well, I worry about taking our eye off the guys we're trying to build the brand with. But I do think that's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, but you know what, Ken? If they stink it up, you're not going to cover them. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but then why have them if you're not going to cover them?
Because think if they do have a successful tournament,
and they're putting money into it.
How much of a story
the
that
pro
makes.
qualifier gives a bigger payout for the tour event.
If I'm going to have them in the tournament, if I'm going to create a special qualifying round to get them in the tournament, you're damn right I'm going to follow them. I'm going to have a photographer on those guys or a camera on those guys at all times because I want to build a story around them. I don't want to have to hope that they catch them. there's going to be stories about them, whether they succeed or fail if I do that.
All right, Matt, you want to wrap it up? What's your thought?
I would send Ken Duke to Japan to cover the world record bass. Moving on.
All right, let's go to the phone.
Arigato, Matt-san.
All right, let's go to the phones. Hey, you're on PTL. Who is
that
this?
Japanese for pass me alive?
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Andrew from Ohio.
Hey, Andrew, what's on your mind, man?
Hey, so I had a question for Ken. I saw last week, or a couple days ago, that the Classic for next year, for 2022, is going to Lake Hartwell.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just wanted to get his opinion. Out of any lakes that haven't held a Classic yet, where he would want to see it go the most, just somewhere that could handle it, with the infrastructure and everything like that.
All right, man. Thanks for the call.
Yep, thanks.
All right, Ken?
Good one, Andrew. That's a tough one, too, because as Mark was alluding to there, the infrastructure is so important. You've got to have a community that's going to get behind it. You've got to have a weigh-in venue that can seat about 15,000. You've got to have an expo facility that can handle 150,000 people moving in and out over the course of 3 days. That's the tough part. What I wish the Classic could do is focus on some smaller bodies of water. If you're having a big-time tour-level event with 100-plus boats out there, we're generally reluctant to have a tournament on a body of water less than about 40,000 acres. But when you drop the field size down to around 50, and I'd love to see the Classic field size drop to around 40, by the way. But when you drop the field size down, that opens up a lot smaller bodies of water. The smallest body of water that's ever hosted a Classic is Lay Lake in Alabama, which I think is officially at around 12,000 surface acres. That's pretty darn small.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you drop the field down, again, if I'm bizarre for a while, I'm going to drop the field down even more, get it down around 40, and I'm going to try to go to some smaller bodies of water that don't ordinarily see that kind of attention, but that are close to a major metropolitan area, perhaps in Georgia, maybe in Florida, certainly Texas. But again,
so like a Lake Austin?
Yeah, something like that, something small like that. You go to a lot of places in Georgia, but Atlanta doesn't want the Bassmaster Classic. They don't care. Orlando doesn't care. Kissimmee might care, and that would be cool. I'd love to see some, and if you're going to cut the field again to 25 in the Classic, which I hate cuts, by the way. If I have one message in this show today, guys, it's going to be that I hate cuts. Hate them.
No.
But if you're going to cut the field down after a couple of days, you can really go to a small body of water. You can go to a body of water that's just a couple of thousand acres. I'd love to see something like that brought to Central Florida. Maybe the first 2 days you have out on the Kissimmee chain of lakes, but the last 2 days you have on much smaller bodies of water, like the Winter Haven chain or the Butler chain here in Florida. But I also wish the Classic would move to a late spring, early summertime, like we're accidentally having this year, because you open up more of the country. When the Classic got moved to the wintertime, or February, March period back in 2006, it was a strategic move, and I think it was a good move. One, you don't have to compete against so many different sports at that time. Super Bowl is over. Baseball hasn't started yet. So it's not as competitive in the sports viewing world. Second, because you're dealing with that period around the spawn, you're going to get bigger fish. Well, I love that, because that makes most Classics more exciting. So those are good things, but you also eliminated 2/3 of the country latitudinally. And Bass has rolled the dice and really caught some breaks, because one of those Hartwell Classics, one of those Grand Classics could easily have been canceled.
Oh yeah,
because of snow or ice. Yeah. And they put extra pressure and extra risk on things when they put the weigh-in an hour or more away from the ramp.
Yeah.
So now not only are you putting extra pressure on the fish, but you're putting extra pressure on the drivers to keep that thing on the road. And eventually their luck may run out, and then it's going to be a tragedy. But I'd like to see it. I'd like to see a June Classic, maybe, or something like that. And I'd like to see it expanded. I think there are a ton of great natural lakes up north in the New England area that could be really interesting. I think there are some places in Minnesota that would be really interesting for a Classic. I think you could go out west and do some cool stuff in the Sacramento area for a Classic. And I'd like to see all those. But if I can't get any of those, I'll settle for more Central Florida Classics so I don't have to drive so far.
Yeah, that's being selfish, Ken. Anyway.
It is.
All right, let's go to the phones. Hey, who is this?
Hey, this is Damon from Lake Chickamauga.
Hi, man. What's on your mind today?
Hey, I got two quick questions. One is for all three of y'all, and it is, I like the behind-the-scenes stuff. So what I was wondering is if all of the BPT guys, the MLF guys, if anonymously they could have a vote and BASS would let everybody in, even people that's never fished BASS before, like Brian Thrift, if they took a vote, what out of all three of y'all, I'd like to get y'all's three opinions on the percentage of the amount of those guys that would come back.
Okay.
Or make the jump. And the second one is, and I believe, and y'all have to correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this the year that people get cut out on the Elite Series, like the bottom 10 or bottom 12? And my question is, I mean, Rick Klein's down there. If he don't make it, is he going to go fish the Opens? So I will hang up and listen to all of y'all's comments.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for the call, man. All right, real quick, on the second question with Rick Klein, I think if he doesn't make it, I think he would qualify for the exemption.
But I don't know how many times he's used the exemption or if there's a max on the exemption.
Yeah.
My understanding is that Rick has never used an exemption. But my other issue is Bass has limited institutional memory. There have been exemptions through the years, and I'll say that I believe I was part of the first exemption system that was created in 2006. Okay, that was the first year of the elites, and we mentioned Jimmy Houston earlier, and thoughts and prayers to Jimmy and Chris and the family for the difficult time they're going through right now. What a terrible situation, and we hope it gets better quickly. But Jimmy Houston finished 106th out of 106. Well, he finished at the bottom of the field that year. And he got cut. And when I found out he was cut, I went to the higher-ups at Bass because my head had exploded. How do you cut perhaps the most popular guy in the field? How do you cut the guy who's signing as many or more autographs as anybody else out there? I thought it was a remarkably dim move. And I proposed an exemption system after that so that such a thing wouldn't happen again. And I gave them different scenarios to choose from and so forth. And what they settled on at that point, or what they have settled on subsequently, is a system where if you've got a classic win or you've got an AOY title, each of those gives you an exemption. Oh, okay. And you use one and you still have your remainders.
Right.
So that means Clunn would have 4 for winning classics and 1 for winning an Angler of the Year. So he would have 5 exemptions available to him. The problem is Bass doesn't seem to remember that the system even exists from year to year or how it works. And they reinvent it. They reinvent it every time they come up with new elite rules. And that's, so I don't know where it stands right now. I have no idea.
I think the exemption would be in place. I think it would be back. So
to lose Rick Clunn before Rick is ready to step away would be a ridiculous.
Yeah. I would say 90, in my opinion, 99% that no matter where he finishes, he's going to be back next year based upon the exemption rule.
Now, I know Melissa wants him to get off the road and stay home and stuff like that, but that's a different matter.
All right. Next question. All three of us, I'll go first. That he asked, what is the percentage of guys that would go back to Bass if they have the opportunity, of which they're going to have the opportunity because the contract ran out. And actually, I'm about 90% positive based upon my conversations. They could have left this past year if they wanted to. All right. Because of the COVID situation and everything else that was taking place, you did have some guys leave. Honestly, in my opinion, I think the vast majority of the guys are committed to what they are trying to do on the BPT and MLF. I think the number would be less than 10%, in my opinion. What would you think, Ken?
I agree with you, Mark. I think that people may think that guys don't like the format as much, or they don't feel like they're getting the same level of exposure that they might want to get for some of their sponsors, and that's an individual thing. But I think what people are underestimating is the bad blood between a lot of these guys and Bass that would keep these guys away from Bass forever.
Yeah.
But there are certainly some guys who would leave if they could, and they had an easy path back to the elites. And I think you're right. I think it's less than 10%.
Matt?
Depends on the value these guys put on a Bassmaster Classic title. That's where it is to me. I mean, to me, Red Crest is great and World Championships are great. It's not a Bassmaster Classic. Mm-hmm. You heard Greg Hackney. I was watching, which is, by the way, amazing. Kings of Bass that Strike King Lure Company is doing.
It is awesome.
You need to go to the YouTube, Strike King's YouTube, and watch that. It's phenomenal. And Greg Hackney did it, and he basically was like, I wanted to win the Classic. He's like, I thought I would be fine without winning a Classic. He's like, and I went over there, and it turns out I wasn't fine. And I want to win a Classic. So there's guys who, if the money's there and you don't care about winning the most important title in bass fishing history that ever has or will be, then go over there, make your money, have it, win your championships over there. But if you want to win the Bassmaster Classic and that's what you grew up and got into the sport for, then there's an incentive to go back to Bass.
Yeah. Do you think it's less than 10%? Do you agree with Ken?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, dude, I talked to guys who are friggin' elated over there.
Yeah.
They're making money hand over fist. Their stress level's low. They love the competition. They love how it is. I mean, these are guys who could requalify, who could do it, and they're like, dude, we like it over here. Yeah. And then you talk to other people, and they're like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Ken, anything else?
I was just going to say most of those MLF guys absolutely love it over there. And speaking of Greg Hackney, Mark.
Oh.
Oh God! So on Monday, we had a little segment where I believe I asked Ken what he thought his 3 worst magazine covers of all time were, and he came out with a guy backseating Rick Clunn in the Classic, a Media Observer.
Any bass fishing magazine.
Yeah, he had a guy with a satchel of fish over his shoulder, and it was an article about poaching. What was the other? Oh, you talked about that Manubu Kuridu guy that won that had the world record. Cover. Yeah, and Colt McCoy had the cover, and he was in the little corner because he wanted outlandish money to be on the cover. And then Ken went back in the archives. And before the show started, he pulled out, in his opinion, What is the worst bass fishing magazine cover of all time?
And we have it.
And I don't
send
think
it to me.
It's just not close. This is hands down the worst.
All right. Drum roll. Here we go. There it is right there.
We are looking at the Bass Fan Magazine 2006 Premier Collector's Edition. Greg Hackney, the Hack Attack, chops the competition. He's wielding an axe. He's also shirtless with metal armor on and a metal. It's basically out of the movie 300, except he's got deer antlers attached to the helmet.
I remember this, man. Wow.
My concern is that they didn't have to go to some wardrobe specialty company. That's just the way Greg answered the door.
Yeah.
I love Greg Hackney, but Greg, you got a lot to answer for here.
Wasn't Ike on the cover of that shirtless too?
I think that's the only issue they ever published.
Oh, that was a Toyota commercial or something. I think.
Yeah. I think they had 2 or 3 issues.
Did they?
That one just blew your mind so much.
I think they did. I think they actually came out with more than just that one issue.
I got to track those down then. Anybody who's got them and wants to unload them.
Yeah, that's 15 years ago, man. That's quite some time, but quite the outfit of Greg Hackney. All right. All right, back to the phones. Let's see here. Hey, you're on BTL. Who is this? Hey, can you turn your volume down on your computer there?
Hey, you're on BTL. Who is this?
Hey, this is Binkwood from Grosse Ile, Michigan.
Hey, how are you, man? Can you turn your volume down?
I'm doing good. Hey, speaking of Greg Hackney, I have a business question for Ken. When he was on last time, he alluded to the fact that he was going back to BASS because his sponsors wanted him to do that. What I'm curious about, are the tackle industry sponsors more interested in having these guys fish BASS because that's where the tournament anglers are, more interested in, or, it seems to me like if Hackney's getting free entry fees, they would really be having to pony up for him to go back. And that seems to be what he was suggesting. He didn't come out and say that, but that's kind of how I read it.
All right, man. Thanks for the question.
All right.
Well,
all right. See you.
Yeah, it's interesting. A company is not going to pay a guy more just because he's got to pay entry fees. A company is going to decide what an angler is worth, and that's what they're going to pay him. What he does with that money, whether it's pay entry fees or something else, is going to be his concern. But that is obviously a big concern to the angler. He might be able to pick and choose differently from sponsors. If he knows he doesn't have entry fees to pay, he might find one sponsor easier to work with than another. As far as which league the sponsors want to go with, it's a sponsor by sponsor issue. And I know that Mark and Matt, I think, can echo this. But the deal is, if you're one of the big premier sponsors at MLF or the Bass Pro Tour, you're getting a lot of bang. You're getting a lot of exposure. If you're not, you're struggling to get exposure. You're not being pushed to the forefront. Now, on the BASS end of things, if you're a sponsor, you're getting good publicity, you're getting good exposure. If you're not a sponsor, you're still getting some, because Bass is spreading that love even among the companies that aren't supporting them. So a BASS sponsor may or may not be getting as much exposure as an MLF BPT sponsor, but the little guys are getting more. So if you're sponsored by a Rapala, for example, that is not a big time MLF BPT sponsor, then you might want your guys to be fishing the elites. But if you're pure fishing, Berkeley, you're getting a ton of great exposure on the MLF BPT side, and you probably want your guys over there. Mm-hmm. So those are two examples that quickly come to mind for me. What do you guys see?
Yeah, the same thing.
I agree.
Yeah, we're good with that.
That's interesting. I see Ryan. I don't know if that's the Ryan Levine on the chat, but that's Ryan Levine, who I believe Speaking of records, do you know the record that Ryan Levine holds, Ken?
The record that Ryan Levine holds? I do not. I'm at a loss.
I believe it's the largest margin of victory in the Bass Nation Championship from 2016 Conroe. He beat the nearest competitor by 16.5 pounds, if that's the same Ryan Levine. Plus, he did it out of the back of the boat for the first 2 days because that was when they had switched the format.
Yes.
So he won the co-angler side. He won the boater side. He got to go to the Classic even though he started in the back of the boat because that's just the screwed up way that I believe Louisiana had done their team. Even though he was a boater, he fished as a co-angler. He drew the Japanese guy who didn't speak English, zeroed the first day. Levine said, hey, I'll freaking jack him on the second day. The translator said, can we go to his spots? The guy was like, yeah. Levine had 24 pounds out of the back of the boat, then went to the front of the boat with the loaner that brought his boat, had another 20 pounds. So he wins 2 boats, like $60,000, gets to go to the Bassmaster Classic, and then opted not to fish the Elite Series. But there's a little rundown of if that's the same Ryan Levine that's on the instant feedback. One of the most legendary tournament weekends in history.
There you have it.
That's remarkable. I know he fished the 17 Classic, and kudos to Mr. Levine. That is quite the accomplishment.
That's good stuff. All right, back to the phones. Hey, you're on PTL. Who is this?
This is Tyler from Alabama.
Tyler, what's on your mind, man?
I got a question for Ken. With more people fishing last year due to COVID shutdowns and stuff, increased tackle and boat sales. What's your thoughts on restocking programs? Do you know any studies that you can recall that's have made a difference in the fisheries with the increased pressure?
All right, man. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. I'm not a biologist, so I'm probably not the best guy I'm certainly not the best guy to answer this question, but I can tell you that the biologists I've spoken to have basically unanimously told me that restocking efforts are typically not necessary at all. Yeah, there are more people fishing, but keep in mind a couple of things. One, most of those people are not bass fishing. Most of those people are bluegill fishing, crappie fishing, cat fishing, anything that bites fishing. And number two, if they're infrequent to the sports, they're probably not catching many bass anyway. Restocking programs are not going to have a significant impact in that case. Most of our fisheries are well managed. Most of our fisheries are self-sufficient and sustaining, and a restocking program is not going to be of significant impact generally.
Right, there you have it.
Exceptional circumstances.
Yep. Before I forget, we had this question, Matt and I, on the show yesterday. And you may or may not know this, but how many Classic champs has there been from the state of Texas?
Oh, that's easy. Why do you ask me easy questions? Why don't you ask me difficult questions?
I got tougher questions coming. Let's go.
Okay. Well, are you talking about Texas residents, or are you talking about people
that
born
lived
in Texas?
lived in Texas when they won the Classic? By the way, different Ryan Levine. Sorry, other Ryan Levine wrecked shop that weekend. I'm sure you're good. I'm sure this Ryan Levine could catch him too.
Exactly, Ryan Levine. If you're named Ryan Levine, you're a damn good stick.
He can catch.
There have been 9 guys who won the Classic when they resided in Texas. Well,
nine?
Let me rephrase. There are not 9, but there are 9 Classics have been won by Texas residents. Cullen won 4 of them.
Okay.
The others
I brought that up.
Okay, so he won all of them while he was living in Texas before he moved to Missouri.
Oh, yeah. Cullen won all of his Classics while he was still living in Texas.
Okay, so there's one guy.
Yeah, and then Alton Jones.
Yeah, we had him. Takahiro.
Takahiro.
Yep.
Jay Ellis.
But he was in Oregon, wasn't he?
No, he was living in Texas.
He was living in Texas at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ellis, Nixon, and Tommy Martin.
Nixon.
Yeah, that was the one we didn't get.
Nixon was living in Hempville when he won in '83. Now, if you want to go by state of birth, it's
so
a
there's
lower
been a
number.
lot. Okay, state of birth. What is it?
Okay, then you're only talking about 4. Texas is tied for the lead in most Classic winners by birth.
We were so wrong on this, Mark.
Wow.
It's like, how come no one from Texas wins the Bassmaster Classic? And Mark was like, you're absolutely right.
No, I said, no, that's a can-do question.
Yeah,
that's
but you agreed with me that it was abnormally low, and here's Ken Duke hitting us with it's like actually the most.
Oh, yeah. Texas residents have won more classics than anybody else.
All right.
Okay, never mind. So
that was the next
who's
question.
the birth?
Okay, by birth, this is gonna shock you. Only 4 guys born in Texas have ever won the Bassmaster Classic, and only 2 of them are going to be guys you'd expect. Alton Jones was born in Baylor. Tommy Martin was born in Livingston.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2 are Bobby Murray, who was born in Longview, but when he won his classics, he wasn't living in Texas. And Brian Kirchhoff was born in Dallas.
Wow. Okay.
The other Texas champs, Clunn was born in a tiny town in California. Takahiro, of course, was from Tokyo.
Yeah.
Jay Ellis was born in Honolulu.
How do you know? How do you know all this?
This is so impressive, folks.
Larry
Wait,
Nixon
Jay Ellis was born in Honolulu.
He was born in Honolulu.
Hawaii. Is he the only angler born in Hawaii to fish professionally? He's got to be.
As far as I know.
Okay, continue.
Larry Nixon. This even shocked Larry's buddy George Cochran. They hunt or fish together about every week. But Larry Nixon was born in Walla Walla, Washington.
Wow. That's impressive.
Thanks for tuning in to BTO. We'll see you next week.
So Texas has, from a resident standpoint, the most classic champs. The state of Texas.
They also have the most classic berths. They have the most individuals to fish the Bassmaster Classic. If you're talking about producing classic anglers, Texas
can we just go back and cut that out?
Number 1. And no.
Last show on Tuesday.
Since we're doing Texas, I have a cowboy riding a bass. How about that? And
where did
I
you
don't
get
want to make
that
this
at?
all about praising Texas, because I've got my axe to grind with Texas. And what I always tell my Texas friends is that the Lone Star State is not a slogan; it is a Yelp rating.
We got another caller on the line.
Wow. Where did you get that at? The fish with the cowboy.
I don't know. I have friends who send me weird stuff.
I've never seen anything like that before.
Is that how it came?
Yeah, well, the cowboy detaches, but
oh, jeez.
Was that a trophy or a bank? Like a piggy bank?
It's not a piggy bank, but it's just a display thing.
But what do you put in there?
Nothing, Matt. It's just for decoration.
Oh, I don't know why I would detach then.
Well, I don't know. I guess it could be a coin bank, but there's no way to open it.
And just bust it. What's it made out of? Metal? Some kind of... It's metal. You're not getting your quarters out of that one.
I'm really confused about like what that is. It's just a interest piece?
Conversation piece. Heck, we're talking about it.
That's very cool.
Never seen one like that. You need to get one of those. It fit right into everything that you're involved with. Rodeos, bass fishing. That's a double dip right there. And somebody just sent that to you, Ken?
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
I have. If you guys think I'm strange, I have some strange friends. You guys are 2 of my strangest friends, by the way.
Yeah, we're pretty strange. We're
Yeah,
very strange.
People watching have no idea. I'm the normal one in this group, by the way.
Huh. Several people want to know, has there ever been back-to-back champions on the Elite Series? Anybody ever won back-to-back? Edwin? What about Kevin? Did Kevin win back-to-back? No? Not
in the Elites, no. I think Kevin won 2 out of 3 at one stretch, but Edwin went back-to-back, which is, that's enormously impressive. I mean, to go back-to-back is pretty dang crazy. Edwin did it in 2015, and it was shortly before he went out and won the Classic. So he put together a monster season because, of course, the 16 Classic that he won was really just a continuation of that 15 season.
Was that the Alabama River and Kentucky Lake?
Where was that? Let me check real quick for you. I can check. It was Kentucky and the St. Lawrence.
Oh, I got one of them right.
And
That's
Edwin, by the way, not only a fabulous human being and an amazing fisherman, but so far as I can tell, the only guy ever to win a tour level event, won multiple with all largemouth, has won with all smallmouth, and has won with all spotted bass. So,
really? Has there ever been a tournament won with shoal bass?
No, I don't know.
Well, I mean, the BPT is going down to Travis here in a couple weeks, and they have the red eye down there, the Guadalupe, I believe.
Yeah, but like the world record Guadalupe is like 2 pounds, 14 ounces or something like that. I think you're going to be hard pressed to catch all Guadalupe and win anything.
You ever caught one, Matt?
I don't believe so. I mean, I've caught some of those weird stream bass in the Ozarks that don't look like smallmouths or spots or largemouth, but they're definitely bass. I'm sure there's one of the subspecies. They're little.
I think you got to be almost an ichthyologist to recognize a Guadalupe.
Huh.
All the guys back when they went to Travis the last time were saying I had like red eyes or something.
All right, real quick, I have one more question for Ken. We want to take one more phone call, so fill up the lines, and then we'll wrap things up. Matt and I got into a discussion about a national professional team tournament trail. So I ask you, in all of your knowledge in the history of this game, has there ever been a professional national team trail?
No. Not to my knowledge.
Why hasn't somebody tried to do that, Ken?
That's a great question. Because, when guys who are into bass fishing like we are think about tournaments, we realize that 99% of the tournaments out there are buddy tournaments. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about everything from what in the Midwest they call fruit jar tournaments to what they call pot tournaments, or just, Friday night tournaments where guys get together. Every team throws $20 in a box and they go. 99% of the tournaments out there are buddy tournaments. And yet it's only been fairly recently that anybody's tried to do bigger, grander, cooler team tournaments. And I always thought, and I always urged bass to get into that, and they never did in a really meaningful way. But no, there's never been anything national. And why? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe because it's hard to split the trophies. Maybe because there's somebody who wanted to give away a boat who gets it. I don't know.
Were you the one that was pushing for the weekend series guy to get a spot in the Classic, Ken?
Well, the weekend series was Bass's effort there.
Yeah,
and
they still have the team championship.
What's that?
They still have the team championship.
Yeah, and I don't know if they can call that a success or not. But yeah, they do still have that, and I think it's interesting. But I don't know. I don't know where you go with it. I don't know why it's not more successful than it's been, because for a while they tried to support it, and they even offered that spot in the Classic for a guy. I think
they still do, don't they?
No,
they still
the team. The team.
Yeah.
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 The team stuff. I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. They do still do the team stuff. When you mentioned the weekend series, I was thinking about the weekend series. They stopped giving that guy a berth.
No, they do the team stuff because then they give everybody a boat, and then you fish against everyone in the bracket style stuff.
Yeah, I think that's stupid. I think once again, we talked about this a little bit last time, where you say, okay, guys, we're gonna play baseball, but then the championship we're gonna play football. You're gonna qualify by playing baseball, but then the championship is gonna be football. Why would you do that? Wow, and I made a joke about it. Wow. I used to. When I worked at Bass, when I was a senior editor at Bass, every year I would give the classic odds. And, of course, you guys did classic odds, too. Mark did the classic odds. And then you guys would invite me on, and we would battle about who had the better odds. But one year I did a joke about the guy who qualified from the team series. And I had him saying, oh, it's a good one. It's a good one. Jim Bob, get the net. Jim Bob. And I got a lot of heat for that from the team guys. But I love the team tournament concept. I love fishing team tournaments. but I don't think the guy should get a classic berth. And the only reason they give the guy a classic berth is to keep that circuit going and maintain interest in that circuit.
Yeah. Do you think a national team tournament, professional, say 6 or 7 stops throughout the year would work?
No.
Or really? Why?
I think your problem is this. Let's say that Mark and Matt are a team, and there are 7 tournaments, and they are everywhere from New York to California.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Mark can get away, but Matt can't get away for all of them. And so then you're going to have to be allowed to have a sub for a certain number of tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally, you're going to pick a sub who's a local on that water and who wears them out. And naturally, people are going to scream bloody murder and say it destroys the integrity of the league. And it's pretty much going to disintegrate into nothing.
Well, I'm going to counter that by saying, and really pointing out what you said earlier in this conversation about 90% or whatever the percentage was of the people that fish tournaments are buddy tournaments.
Yeah.
All right. So my thinking is that if you get at least 60 teams, have a 60-team national team trail, that there are definitely 60 teams that would commit across the nation to doing this with no subs, and you put all
$10,000 entry fee.
Yeah,
$5,000 a person.
You obviously put all these parameters in there. I think because of what you said, that you would definitely get 60 teams to commit to it.
Okay, we haven't attacked the real problem. Let's attack the real problem now. Who's going to watch? Nobody. Let me ask you a question. Now, I don't know if you guys are tennis fans. I'm not a tennis fan. But if I were to ask a tennis fan, somebody who watches tennis on a regular basis, if I say, hey, who won the men's singles championship at Wimbledon last year? They're probably going to be able to tell me. They're going to say, it was Djokovic or it was Nadal or somebody. Now, if I ask them, hey, who won mixed doubles? They're going to have no freaking idea.
I agree.
And so that's why that mixed doubles thing is not on TV.
I agree 100%. But where I'm going to counter, once again, is the vast majority of people that fish tournaments across this country are team tournaments.
Agreed.
Hence, the interest just in the team format would be very high.
Do you not think a lot of people who play tennis, you think they all go and they're like, no, I only play singles?
No, they play doubles.
Yeah. There's a difference between playing and watching or caring about and engaging with the media so that the league can be supported. And let's use another example for that. I used to like to play slow pitch softball. I ain't going to watch anybody play slow pitch softball. I'm not. And I'm not going to buy the bat that the slow pitch softball dude recommends.
Yeah.
And I'm just not, because my level of interest isn't going to be there. And I think the same is true of the team tournament thing.
Yeah.
But I will pay attention to what Kevin Van Dam says and does, and I will watch Edwin Evers' videos, and I will participate in that because it's individual and it's focused, and I can get behind that persona, and I can recognize the talent there.
Yeah, it's a great conversation piece, man, and I respect what you say. I just think there are a lot of factors in there, and maybe the initial reaction to the fans across the country is interest because it's something new from a national perspective. It hasn't been done. Yeah, it's done all the time from a regional perspective, from a state perspective. But with it being new, it would be very interesting to see what the long-lasting fan perspective would be, because it's never been done before.
And you put a camera in it, and then when the teams start fighting, then you just go live.
It turns into WWE.
I would watch that forever. But we'll go over to the team of Smith and Johnson, who are debating between a stretch of docks and a bluff wall.
Yeah, I don't even think it's about watching. What I'm thinking is, maybe for the first year, these guys are fishing for their own money. Which is the case.
Hey, They're still fishing for their own money
Exactly.
at the highest level.
Exactly.
Well, I want to be an announcer on this team tournament thing.
I mean, Johnny's kind of doing it.
We're speculating.
I know it's a one-off, but
yeah, it's a little different.
Is Mark going to put the boat on the trailer, or will it be Matt? Mark or Matt? We've got the Vegas odds. Stand by.
Oh, yeah, that's very creative there.
But
Ken.
Johnny's doing it. I mean, that's not cheap entry fee. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars with a qualifier and a national championship, and who knows where this is going to go in the future. I mean, that's as close to a pro team tournament. I mean, what is it, $450 a person or something? And I know it's exclusive and all that. I'm just saying, big money for a team tournament that's across the country with qualifiers. That's in hundreds of thousands and $1 million in boats and.
It's exclusive. Matt, it's exclusive.
I know. I put the qualifiers on it. I'm just
saying. You didn't put the biggest qualifier in there. It's exclusive. So Johnny's going to sell some boats. And B, he's the most powerful man in fishing. If he wants sponsors, he will twist arms and get sponsors.
Yeah. He is the most powerful person in the industry.
I'm not saying how it happened or who can fish it. I'm just saying it's a big money team tournament and it's spread across the country and it's got qualifiers and you have to fish with the same guy in the championship.
I really believe, Ken, I truly believe there are 60 teams out there that would definitely commit.
With you.
You don't think that there's 60 teams out there that would commit to a national professional team tour?
I mean, no, because
60. That's not that many.
No, because the guys who fish team tournaments do it on one or two lakes, and that's where they make all their money. That's why the teams are legends. You don't hear these guys. I mean, it's guys who are legends on Grand or guys who are legends on Eufaula, Alabama, or Gunnersville teams or Rayburn teams. They don't take the show across the road. Why would you spend the money to go across the road when you can win $80,000 2 hours from your house and you know you're going to beat all the chumps? Because you put all the brush piles out and you live 20 minutes from there and you have no expenses. You're going to win just as much money and just as less, and you don't care about it. Most of these guys who fish team tournaments aren't in it for the glitz and the glamour. Like, look at Warren and Pilcher and Head and Carey and all those guys. Like, dude, they fish one or two lakes. They work their ass off on those lakes and they beat everyone. Why would you want to travel across the country the same shot?
You're right. Ken, I'm gonna ask this question, all right, based upon his response to Matt. So why in the world would you travel all across the country to fish the Opens when you could be dominant here in the state of Oklahoma on Grand Lake, on Lake Texoma and Lake Eufaula, make all kinds of money right here in this state? All right, fishing by yourself.
Because that doesn't exist by yourself. All the big money stuff is team tournaments.
Time out. Then why don't you get a team partner and clean everybody's clock in this state on Grand Lake, Lake
Because
Texoma,
there's a whole bunch
Eufaula.
of difference of making all your own decisions and doing it on your own. Plus, you can qualify for the freaking Bassmaster Classic.
Okay.
And you can qualify for the Elite Series. You can fish for $100,000 a tournament. And you can have sponsors to where then you are applicable and you are relevant nationwide. So you're growing your brand as opposed to locally where there's a ceiling to it.
I agree. So why couldn't you do the same thing from a team perspective? Because that is 90%.
Because Ken
of
just
what
explained to it. They don't care about the doubles.
Of what people
you want to
do
look at
in
one
this
guy.
country.
They just looked at the doubles. No one cares about the doubles tennis. They want to see.
Because it doesn't exist.
Yes, it does. They have it in freaking Wimbledon.
No, I'm not talking about the doubles thing. I'm talking about a national professional team tournament here in the U.S. Fishing. You're not going to convince me on this. I'm sorry, Ken. I truly believe there are 60 teams across this country that would do it.
I don't get it when I watch the redfish thing. I like watching. The redfish thing is interesting to me. It's harder to get into two people and the storylines of two people. Like, I watch the redfish thing when a guy loses a fish and the other guy's like, "You idiot!" Like, that's where I'm like, redfish tour, let's roll.
Ken,
let's test y'all's memory here. Back in about 2005 or 6, Bass introduced a team tournament concept. But here's the deal. It was a 6-man team.
Yeah, the TTBC was the 6-man team. Yeah. Dave Smith was on the first one. Kelly Jordan introduced it.
That's the craziest thing ever. And Don Rux came up with that idea because he was from Kansas, Oklahoma. He was familiar with that kind of format, which apparently exists in that part of the world. But really, not many other places, and it didn't last long and it didn't do well. But I certainly think a 2-man team tournament has a better chance than that.
Yeah, well.
And I got nothing against it. I fish them all.
We'll see.
I love fishing team tournaments, but I don't want to watch one.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. Last
You're
thing I'm
gonna
going
lose
to say.
your life savings. All your UPS money's going to go down the crapper when you freaking invest in the professional team trail. Now we'll have Bass, MLF, MPFL, MLFLW, and the MJTT.
I'm not doing it. All right. The last thing I'm going to say, and then we'll wrap things up here, is back to the technology thing. I think the next step that we're going to see, Ken, and let me get your thoughts on this, is eventually the technology is already there, all right? And the cost is way down now. But I think eventually what we're going to see, no matter what the tour is, be it the Elite Series or the BPT, I think the fans are going to get to the point where they're going to be able to watch and click on individual anglers that have cameras or the technology in their boat, and they're going to selectively watch who they want to watch during the events. Do you agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree. I think it's been moving that way for a long, long time now. And I think it's inevitable because people want more choices, and that's just the way it's going. There's no turning back.
Yeah. Matt, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, they've semi-tried that in the past.
Yeah.
The butt cam. That's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, but the technology is so much better now, and the placement of the camera, the audio. You remember with the butt cam, you had no
look what
audio.
Bassmaster's doing. You can either watch it on Fox or you can watch the live mix, and they have the live mix, and that's like, it's just a guy, and they just pick the random guy and they have it on them if you don't want to listen to all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it definitely exists.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, man. I want to thank everybody that called in. Great stuff. These shows are always some of the popular shows that we do. Ken, you added so much to this show. The knowledge and the historical data that you have is definitely priceless. So you're going to be filling in some while Matt's gone too. Mm-hmm. Going to be me and you. And Matt, we will do day 4 tomorrow with Frank Scalish. And I did talk to Frank, and Frank is he's not doing the Carolina Rig show.
Oh,
tomorrow.
Good. Hey, apparently I heard there's some sort of screw on the side of that jumping cowboy bass that you can open, that you can store valuables in.
That's true. I guess that's right. Yeah, I should have shown you that, and I would be afraid to take it apart, but yeah, there is a screw.
See, you can open it, you can store things in there.
Oh.
He's got a little seam. You can make it a bank. You're right. Right there.
Very nice. Very nice.
Maybe Ken didn't want us to know that because he does store his rare coins in there. And he's like, I'll show it, and then no one will know about it.
Oh, jeez. Wow. Hey, man, great stuff today. And appreciate everybody on the instant feedback. Very interactive show today. A lot of good stuff. Ken, we'll get after it hopefully next week, man. You can jump in here and pinch hit for Matt while he is trying to do some damage at the Federation Nation, or what is it called?
I got
the Nation?
Douglas, and then I got Douglas the Open.
Oh, you had the Open first?
That's before.
Oh,
I've talked about that a bunch, yeah.
Well, you got mixed up.
No, I have Douglas next week. Then I go to the Bass Nation Regional on Milford in Kansas. Then I go to the Bass Central Regional on Pickwick. Then I have 2 days of travel to get out to the James River on the East Coast. And by then I'll be stopping at truck stops to make it to the next one.
So he's gone for 4 weeks, but he's going to be checking in. He'll be doing stuff while he's on the road.
Big news.
Yeah, what's the big news? Brother.
The clothing line is finalized. We're doing limited runs of everything. It will only be available for 2 weeks. But I spoke to Catherine before the show, who's doing the clothing. They're getting us hooked up. There are 5 items, folks. They will only be available for 2 weeks because, quite frankly, I'm leading this and I don't have the funding to open up a store, and I have no idea if it's going to sell or whatnot based on the DMs I get. It's basic BTL clothing, people. It's the logo. It's a Richardson 112 hat with a BTL patch. It says BTL. All reasonable prices, nothing outlandish. We have a black long sleeve, a white long sleeve, and a soft gray AFCO cotton tee, and a BTL hoodie, black hoodie. It will be available for 2 weeks. I have to do a limited run on the hat, though, because I have to purchase the patches separate, and I can't over-purchase them, so this will be a one-time only. And if it goes well, then you'll have a chance to buy some stuff before the holiday season.
Yeah.
So there'll be nothing else after that 6 weeks. She is supposed to have the website up and possibly ready by Friday, which means Friday,
Nice.
right? Which means that the site could potentially be live on Monday. It's just a 14-day deal, just open for 14 days. And if it's done, then you don't get any of it.
Nice.
So that will be on the radar. I'm actually going to purchase some hats. I believe Mr. Duke has earned a BTL hat.
Yes, he has.
A Richardson
I'm happy to
112.
buy them, guys. I just don't want to get shut out. I'm afraid if I log on too late, everything's gonna be gone.
No, we got you. We got you taken care of, Ken.
It is. So this is the way I was told to. This is the best way I was told to do it without extending myself too much, because
you're rocking it.
So I mean, yeah, I got the rap boat and all that. I got a lot of some help from sponsors to make it through the year, but not all the way through the year, if you know what I mean.
This, in other words, folks, if you support this clothing opportunity that we have here on BTL, you're basically helping out Matt with
I'm
his
just saying,
expenses.
there's a number of professional anglers who have said, hey, don't rely on winnings to get through the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So this is my opportunity to make sure that I can fish stress-free, and then the BTL family can help me out a little bit.
Somebody told you not to rely on winnings to get through the year, and they call themselves a professional angler?
Yeah, for 10 years, someone told me not to even fish tournaments.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was
Mark, do you know any professional anglers like that?
Do we need to do decals, do you think?
I can get that done. I have a contact for that. Those are easy because you can just put them in envelopes and mail them out.
Or you could just order them off the site, and then they don't have to freaking mess with it.
Decals?
Yeah.
Well, you need to look into that.
They do
too.
everything.
Give her a call.
I'll give Catherine a call after and see if we can just do a BTL decal too.
Yeah.
You should be giving
cool
away
stuff.
the decals.
Yeah, we'll see.
To help promote the
Find
others.
out on that.
Jeffrey's never spent a dime on promotion.
That's not true. I came
When
up
was the
with
last time you spent money on a promotion for the show?
The purple
advertising
and gold, the
nothing?
purple and gold hats.
That was literally in 1997, Mark. You refuse to go to the Classic. You refuse to do any of the promotion or the advertising. It's all organic for the last 20 years.
It really is.
If you think Jeffries is going to come out of pocket for a sticker, Ked, you don't know him as well as I thought you did.
My bad. I know
we'll
he's
see.
getting. I
Talk
know
to the lady.
I know I'm a cheap date on the show. So
Here's what I'll do, though. If we can do the stickers, I'll put it at cost on it, so it'll only be like cents per sticker. And then if you order something, obviously, then you just throw a couple stickers in so you can get them for like less than $1.
Yeah, get that done. Talk to her. Let's see if we can get that added. All right, folks, tomorrow, day 4 with Frank Scalish. We'll see what Mr. Frank has to say about what's going on in the bass fishing world and his world. I know he's been doing a lot of crappie fishing.
Frank?
He's been smashing
And so's
them.
Brad. Brad went yesterday and smashed them too.
Yeah, smashing them. All right, Ken, we will talk to you soon. Folks, you're going to see a lot more of Ken Duke here on BTL as Matt is going to be gone for the next month, basically. So Ken's going to be filling in. We will still hear from Matt on a regular basis when he's on the road. So check us out tomorrow. That's it, folks. We are out of here.